Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is Snapshot Episode 4. My name is Kevin.
Hello, this is Tyson.
This is Tyler.
In this Snapshot episode, we take a quick look at the game Welcome to the Moon. We'll give a short overview of the rules, theme, what we liked about the game, and where you can find it. Is this game a good fit for your friends and family? Stick around to get our thoughts because we're ready to jump into Welcome to the Moon. So if you're new to Snapshot episodes, we do a quick 10 to 15 minute overview of a game that we really enjoy playing. So let's jump into the rules and then we'll get into what we think about it. Welcome to the Moon is designed by Alexis, Allard and Benoit Turpin. It's published by Blue Cocker Games with art done by Anne Heidsieck. Welcome to the Moon is the last episode of the Welcome to trilogy of games. After the residential housing estates of the 1950s, after the casinos of the 1960s, you will aim to conquer space. Welcome to the Moon is an evolving and narrative flip and write game. It contains 8 different adventures that form a complete story with an increasing difficulty level. You can play these 8 adventures independently or successively to play out your story. The campaign book will let you discover Welcome to the Moon by playing its 8 adventures in order, from the 1st to the 8th. Moreover, during each campaign, you will influence the course of events thanks to campaign cards, and therefore create a different story each time. You can also play each of the 8 adventures separately. To play Welcome to the Moon, each player selects an adventure sheet, 3 mission cards are selected, and the starship cards are split into 3 separate stacks with the numbers face up. A game is played in successive turns. Each turn is made up of 6 phases. At the beginning of each turn, the top card of each draw pile is flipped and placed in front of its pile, action face up. This will give you 3 number and action combinations. Each player will then pick one of the 3 number action combinations. You are then required to write the number in an empty space of the marking area of your adventure sheet. These spaces are grouped in different zones depending on the adventure you are playing. In each zone, the numbers must be placed in ascending order from lowest to the highest. If you can't write the number, you must take a system error. You then have the option of taking the action. You will always perform the same 6 actions, but in different ways depending on the adventure you will be playing. Actions include the robot action that allows you to connect, build, cut, and explore, the water and plant actions that allow you to collect resources and earn bonus points, energy actions that allow you to improve other actions, astronaut actions that allow you to modify the value of numbers, and planning actions allowing you to fill in additional spaces on the same turn. During different adventures, incidents can occur and are resolved during Step 5. The last step is accomplishing a mission. Each adventure has different missions that are explained in the specific rules for the adventure. The first players to fulfill, in the same turn, the requirements of the mission can accomplish it. They write the highest value of the mission card in the corresponding A, B, or C space on their sheet. Then the mission card is flipped to the mission accomplished side. Other players can complete the mission but will get less points. The game ends when someone has completed each mission, crossed off all the system errors, or filled in all the spaces on their sheet. You then move to final scoring. You add up all points for accomplished missions and points for each scoring field, such as water and plants. Points are subtracted for system errors, and the player with the most points is the winner.
Thanks, Kevin, for explaining the rules to Welcome to the Moon. You mentioned it a little bit in your rules already, but I think the thing that makes this game very exciting, to me personally, is the fact that this is basically a game that has 8 different games in a box.
Right, and they're vastly different, right? The different missions that you go on are varied, very varied.
Right? And the first one just eases you into it.
Yeah.
The launch.
The launch. So, the theme of the game is Earth is being, destroyed by asteroids, right? And you got to get off Earth and go to the moon to save yourself, right? So the first one, like, Tyler mentioned, you're trying to launch your ship, get off of Earth before you get destroyed.
This isn't in the rules, but I personally like to think it's the rocket ship that we built when playing We're Doomed. Okay. And now we're hopping on it.
Oh, right. Okay.
No.
I think there's probably some crossover there. Sure.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but the first adventure really eases you into it, like you said, Tyler. Like, you don't even use the action abilities in that mission, right? It's very basic. It's probably one that I wouldn't go back to very frequently unless I'm teaching somebody the game, right? But it definitely eases you into it.
Well, and I think you can teach people the game regardless of which campaign level you're on, essentially.
Right.
Because if players are familiar with playing hobby board games, then they're going to be able to jump into these. But the thing that I really like about Welcome to the Moon is that it is more of a gamer's game of Welcome to, in a way that makes it appealing to those who may not have as much experience with things. So you have the ease into it a little bit, and then those who may want a meatier kind of an experience. Welcome to the Moon does a really good job, I think, at providing a certain level of brain crunch that Welcome to did not have for me.
And I said, the first mission is probably not my favorite, but it does have some really interesting things, right? Like a victory condition where if you can launch your ship first, and if you do that, you immediately win, right? Yep. Awesome. That's so cool, right?
It's kind of like a shoot the moon mechanic.
Right. Like, oh, hey, there you go. I see what you did there. I mean, that's not in any other Welcome to that I played before, right? That's awesome. And each scenario, each mission that you play is going to add some different things like that.
Yeah, I think Welcome to New Las Vegas is the most complex one that I've played. This one, Welcome to the Moon, you start out with the launch. The second one, the journey.
Awesome.
We played both of those for the first time at Origins in 2022. My brain melted.
It blew my mind.
Yeah. And so you have this long string of a path through space.
It's
right?
basically the route
to
the moon, right?
Yeah. And then you can branch off and do these kind of side quests for extra points, but you're essentially dividing up this really long line of numbers and then creating separate 1 to 15 segments to it.
Yeah.
And man, you can get in a lot of trouble with it.
Yeah, you can. You can get in a lot of trouble. But it's crunchy, but it's so satisfying when you can get it to work. Right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that there's robots that go out to these space stations, and you're trying to plant plants out in these space stations. And what kind of blew my mind as well is you have to activate all these robots to the space station, right?
Yep.
And then that's a multiplier. Whoever gets there first gets the higher multiplier. If you get there second, you get the lower. But then you have to plant plants in these space stations. And to plant them, you have to put the number in the actual segment. And trying to get that to work out is just, wow. Yeah. It kind of blew my mind, But when you do it successfully and you can plan, it's awesome when you get it to work. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was a lot of fun at Origins when we played that for the first time. Yeah.
Well, and you guys both kind of touched on this already a little bit to some extent, but there is this overarching narrative that goes on. So you just talked about you first launch from Earth, right? And then you get into orbit so that you can arrive on the moon. You arrive on the moon, you start building up your habitat, then you continue to expand and grow and develop resources and do a bunch of different things until you fully basically colonized the whole entire moon throughout this campaign.
But it's not all happy.
No.
Have you guys seen what happens in the later?
So I've only played through the 4th adventure, but I looked forward and there's some bad stuff that happens.
Yes, there are some biological things that happen that aren't good.
Bacterial and disease kinds of things.
An evacuation, and then you find new planets, and then there's a battle over the new planets in the last adventure.
That's awesome.
So, things seem all great up until a point, I think, about adventure 6, and then things start to hit the fan.
Well, and while you're playing these scenarios, you're not really feeling that theme necessarily, but I love the interconnectedness of the theme throughout it, that there is this loosely related story that you can put together in your head as you're playing through it. Yeah. It may not be the most thematic experience you'll ever have, but the art on here is fun. The colors they use, the different little cards and things like that come up. The components really kind of evoke the theme a little bit more, and you have to kind of create that narrative in your own mind, but it is there, and the campaign also fills that in for you to some extent.
Yeah, so I haven't played the campaign itself, but I was looking through it, and it's one of those things where if certain things happen, go to this section. If something else happens, go to this section. Play with these campaign cards. So I think when you play a campaign, from one campaign to the other, depending on what happens during the course of each game, you can have a vastly different experience based on the campaign cards that are introduced into the current adventure.
Yeah, and I've talked about how it's tough for me to get campaign games played before. I think this is one that I could play because my family really enjoys Welcome to the Moon. So hearing that there's, every time you play could be different, that's awesome. You just reset and play again, and it's not like you're destroying anything in a legacy game. You just reset and start, this is great.
One of the big selling points to me about any game is a game that tells me that there's variability, that I can use the same game to have multiple different experiences over time. But I really like the discovery kind of element of this. And basically what you just described, Tyler, is there was already a fair amount of discovery in this game when you're saying, hey, there are 8 different scenarios that you can play independently, but if you link them together as a campaign, the variability and discovery component to this game is off the charts, I think.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Adventure 3? The one that really broke my brain.
Yes.
Right.
This one broke your brain?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, for me it was number 2, but all right, let's do it.
I think this one broke my brain even more. So Adventure 3, it's the colony. You're actually colonizing the moon. You get there, right? So there's a grid, and you're building these buildings in a grid shape. But the trick is you've got to go in ascending order, both vertically and horizontally, right? Talk about being able to get yourself in a bad spot, right? You have to be really careful.
Especially those first few moves, they are so critical, and you feel the pressure of, do I use this number right now and lock myself into this kind of range of numbers, or do I wait for a potentially better number to put in this spot? And that was there was a lot of pressure early on. It starts to ease up a little bit as you go throughout.
Once you realize you haven't screwed yourself over. Right.
But there is some pressure in that I didn't expect within the first play or two or turn or two.
Yeah, I agree. And not only that, it's so the board is divided up into 4 different sectors, and it's a race to fill in one sector first because you get more bonus points.
Yep.
So there's an additional choice there. It's like, okay, do I put a number here where it fits perfectly, or do I take this other number and put it down here in this grid because I've almost filled it in, and Tyson has as well, and I want to get those points before he does, so it adds that little extra.
I don't think I've played a roll and write or a flip and write that was as tense to me as scenario 3 was of Welcome to the Moon. I loved that about this experience. Most of the time I'm playing flip and writes and roll and writes. They're more of a casual experience, kind of laid back and fun. Let's color, let's fill in things, let's check things off, etc. And there's not a whole lot of pressure. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like that, and I think Welcome to the Moon has that in a number of different scenarios, but I also like that there is scenarios in here that does have that crunch, and I could play a more casual version of this game if I wanted to by maybe playing scenario 1, or I could go and play maybe scenario 3 or other ones and get more of a meaty kind of in-depth experience.
And I think it escalates more as you get later in the adventures, right? It gets a little bit more complex as you get further on. And
so if you like games I think Sudoku comes to mind with Welcome to.
Nice,
if you like puzzle style games, kind of the more abstract games.
If you like other roll and writes or flip and writes, this is one of the best.
I would agree. I don't know that there is a better roll and write that I've experienced to this point.
It's just incredible that there's 8 different puzzles to figure out in one box. There is a lot of content in that one box. I've played Twilight Inscription, right? And that thing is heavy, and that's brain burning as well. But I love that there are 8 different ones in Welcome to the Moon, and I think that makes it one of the best roll, flip, and writes out there that there is, just because of the variability in the puzzles that you're trying to solve.
And it's a little more accessible than a big one like Twilight Inscription.
Right,
would be, right? So it's a little bit more bite-sized while still giving that crunch and what gamers are maybe looking for.
And travel size as well. This is a small package.
If you're interested, it is available for around $35 on online game stores. Right now, it's on sale for $30 on Amazon.
Ooh, bargain.
Yep. At the time of recording. But
I found one shop that has it for $28.13.
Nice.
That's Gamers Guild Arizona.
Even better bargain.
Nice. Well, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck at $30 and $35.
Yeah, and if you're going to own any version of Welcome to the Moon or Welcome to, I think this is the version to own because of that alone. You get bang for your buck, and there is so much variability in this game.
That closes out our snapshot of Welcome to the Moon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check out our full-length episodes. We discuss games that we've been playing, do deep dives and feature reviews, share top 5 lists on a variety of board game topics, and discuss all things board game related. For even more Longest Turn, check out our Discord server, Board Game Geek blog and guild, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to support the show, buy us some wooden eggs on buymeacoffee.com. All links and information are included in the show notes. Thanks for listening.
Sufficiently cleared your throat.
I don't know. We'll see.
One of the things that we like to mention is if there are games that you like, what can they relate to? That was a really terrible way of saying that.
What is this game similar to?
Yeah. So I think there are...
What's this game? Say something in 3 sentences that could be said in 1.
in less than one.